Hi, good morning. My name is John Baker and I'm chairperson of the St. Gabriel's Hall Corporation. And with me this morning is my partner in crime, Miss Nora Tremblett. And we're standing here this morning in front of the Veterans Memorial Room, which is a room that St. Gabriel's Hall has dedicated to the many veterans of our area. Most of our veterans, you'll note when we come inside, are from the Burin Peninsula, but we have not made an issue of not displaying any veteran who has been a member of any of the conflicts. And you'll notice in here that we have our World War II veterans, and they come from all areas of the province, or all areas of the Burin Peninsula. Notably in here is my dad, which you'll see up here on the top, who was a sapper in the Royal Canadian Engineers in the Second World War. Miss Nora's dad is down here on the end, and this is Mr. Cyril Butler. Joseph Baker was my dad, by the way, and this is Cyril was in the Royal Air Force during the Second World War as well.
Yes, my dad was in the, he went over with the forestry first, and then he didn't come home and he decided to stay, so he went with the Royal Air Force when he was there.
And he's here as well.
Yes, this is my dad as well. He was 96 when he passed, and as you can see, he was a very decorated veteran. It's not something that they talked about a lot. Usually it was when they were on leave or, again, as I was saying, his friends, when he was over there, they met in a bar on leave one day. There was three of them. It was himself and Patty Canning and Mike Brennan. And they had this 10-pound note. What they did was the three of them signed. It was Mike Brennan, Patty Canning, and my dad, Cyril Butler. And he kept that, and he said that once all three of them got back, then they would have a gathering and reminisce, and anyway, they had a great time. But no, they didn't, neither one of them talked very much about the war. It was something that was near and dear to them, but now they had camaraderie. Like when they got together, they would, they'd have a discussion about certain things, but not to the families and things like that, right? So, matter of fact, he was very instrumental in this room. A lot of the pictures that you see on the wall, him and my mom actually were very instrumental in getting the information, and we did this room back in 2010 actually. So a lot of the people that you see here are people that he knew personally. Both John's father and dad knew a lot of them, and yeah, and it's near and dear to our hearts as well. It's certainly a legacy of them.
Are any of them still around?
No, actually none of them. I think my dad may have been the last one that passed away. And his good friend, Mr. George Brushett as well. He's right here. As a matter of fact, there was 6 months to the day when they passed. And they were very good friends. When my dad came back as well, he also was an instrumental part in getting the RCSC Mary Rose on the go. And as you can see from some pictures in the cabinet there, actually him and Patty Canning were very instrumental in getting it. And that's when all the Sea Cadets started, and John was a part of that regiment for quite some time.
How do the young generations respond to this room?
Well, they're very intrigued by it. Several years ago now, since the pandemic, we haven't had a whole lot of it. But what they did during the years is that they would bring them from the schools, and Dad and Mr. Brushett and Mr. Reginald Grow, like they'd come and they'd have a chat with them, and they did. They were very, they would tell them different stories about what was going on to a certain extent over there. But the kids, especially the younger ones, were very intrigued with the stories and very taken up with, because what they would do is during Remembrance, the week of Remembrance Day, right?
What about your father?
My father was a sapper in the Second World War with the Royal Canadian Engineers, as Nora alluded to. they didn't want to talk a whole lot about what happened overseas. I remember when I was in grade 9, and I was doing a history program because I'm a real good history buff. I love history, and I loved reading about the Second World War and stuff like that. And I thought I had it made, actually, because my teacher gave me a project to do on the Second World War. So I made it for home, and I talked to my dad and figured I was going to have like a first-hand view and vision of everything that went on in the Second World War. But I got one little anecdotal piece out of it, which was something that was actually funny. But in terms of talking about war, they wouldn't talk about it. But he did tell me that they were at a farm in France trying to get through a German line somewhere, and they hadn't eaten for 3 or 4 days, and they raided a hen house, and the only thing they had to collect eggs was a burlap bag. So they raided the hen house and they stole the eggs. Anyway, but by the time they got over the barbed wire fences and got back to the trenches, you can imagine what the eggs were like. So he said, Hensley, this was his version of scrambled eggs. Okay, so that was about the only thing that they would talk about. But they were, my dad, as Nora's dad did as well, they were very instrumental in doing things when they got home. They became very valued members in a community. They volunteered. They became a part and parcel of the whole community. And it was amazing when you think about today's modern soldier, and we think about, the assets that they have and stuff like that to ply the war and stuff like that. But in order to do what they did, it was kind of a massively different thing altogether,
Earlier you were talking about the large number of men lost in such a short...
Well, I mean, the most famous, I guess, battle in Newfoundland would have been the Battle of Beaumont Hamel, and I mean, we lost a whole battalion of Newfoundlanders who went over the top and basically never survived that. So we, and again, as you alluded to earlier, Leanna, for such a small population, and when you look around and you see the numbers of people who actually went to war to fight, it was a testament to the valor of Newfoundlanders at the time, in terms of fighting for Queen and country and for freedom, of course. Okay. And of course we had, besides my dad and Nora's dad, we had my father-in-law, my wife's dad, was in he was in the British Navy, and he'd been back and forth to Europe from Canada. On one of the ships that I remember most about him being on was HMCS Quebec. So this was in the Canadian Navy afterwards. So there were multitudes of people who, like I said, went and joined. They joined a whole variety of arms of the military, whether it was the British military or the Canadian military. My father went overseas. My father left. They left to walk to Cape Breton in Nova Scotia and catch the train in Goobies and then try to get across the Gulf on the ferries and stuff like that. And when he got in Cape Breton, he was only 17 years old. So they checked his birth date and they wouldn't let him join, so they sent him back home again. When he came back home, he decided he was, they were trying to get in the Navy, of course, because we were a seafaring people. So I guess the Navy would have been the place to go. So he went back to Cape Breton again and decided that he was going to join the Canadian Army as opposed to the British Navy. So that's when he went. So of course they went to Ontario, they did their training, and then they went overseas from there. So.
Are you still collecting pictures, images, documents?
We take anything that we have, as you know, like I'll just, if you note that just some of the assets that we have in here, like this picture at the top is a project that my grandson, Riley Plank, had done on my grandfather. It was called To Hell and Back. It was a project that he'd done in school, and matter of fact, he won the regional contest on this particular piece. The pieces at the bottom are some of our, because we have very few young, even though we have a fair number of young people who are presently in the Canadian military and have been in harm's way, whether it's been in Afghanistan or in peacekeeping or whatever the case may be. But we have great difficulty getting those people simply because of privacy and all this kind of stuff. But I will show you that we have. Of course, we have, these are the young folks that we have, and of course, one of our most probably famous people out of all this who have actually died was one of the first Newfoundlanders to die was a gentleman by the name of Private Kennedy.
Yep.
And Nora, I'm not sure if we have him.
Yes.
Do we have him?
This is
Private Kevin
Yep.
Kennedy, right
Yep.
here. Okay, so he's originally from St. Lawrence. All right, he was one of the first soldiers to die in Afghanistan. And these are some of the other ones who have been over there. And
actually Perry Rideout.
Perry,
Yep.
Scott Spencer is this young gentleman is from here, and Scott's
Bradley Line.
some of the stuff that Scott brought back to us was like this stuff right here. This is Scott, right? This was some of the stuff that Scott brought back from Afghanistan when he was there. Okay. And so, you know, we all know the trauma, I guess, and the hardship and stuff like that most of our troops went through when they went to Afghanistan, and even in the peacekeeping world and stuff like that. Like it's not very kind to our population anymore in terms of that, you know. So we have our First World War. We tried to keep them kind of separated, Leanna, somewhat. So we have, like, these are our First World War veterans, and as you can imagine, during the First World War in Newfoundland, we didn't have a great big population, and this is a big chunk just of our people from the Burin Peninsula area, right? You know, so as Miss Nora alluded to, Mr. Butler was instrumental in getting a lot of these pictures and stuff like that for us, because we would not have the wherewithal to go and do that. But he spent many hours, you know, researching and finding this stuff for us so that we could get it, and then getting as much as we could in terms of information on these fine folks as well.
And the peacekeepers.
Right? And our peacekeepers are over here. Okay, so again, like I said, we tried to separate them and keep them going. Some of them we might have a few mixed in here, now that we probably shouldn't have, but we're kind of, as you can see, we're kind of running out of space.
Yeah,
right? But we found a place that we wanted to put all of these folks, right? And what else did we get in here? So we got the flags from all the provinces we put in here, okay? And we did up the flags for which wars we were talking about when we had them done and stuff like that. So we spent quite a bit of time in here, and again, like I said, this is a very public domain, and it's something that becomes probably during Remembrance Day and during Canada Day, because of course Canada Day is celebrated as Canada Day and as the Battle of Beaumont Hamel for us as well, right? In terms of that. So. It's an open house affair. We normally do something for the folks, like we'll do lunch, we do entertainment and stuff like that, and we kowtow to any of the veterans that are still in the service,
as well,
right, and the Legion members and stuff like that, right? So yeah.
How can people visit this room?
This is like, the hall is not open as a rule, like on a daily basis or on a schedule of any event. But Nora and I are always around. There's always somebody around. Anybody who wants to come in and take a tour or have a look and spend some time, especially if there's a loved one here that's been in the service. And we would also certainly like to ask that if you have a loved one who is a veteran, or a passed on veteran, obviously now, because I don't think there are anybody left from the Second World War. But if there are, you know, folks who have pictures, photos, or anything of their loved ones who were in any of the wars or any of the conflicts, we would dearly love to have them. I mean, we'll just ask them to get them to us. And you notice we have these, they're all in the same frames. So we have
we do the frames and the
right,
maps.
we do the
just
frames
need a
and the pictures.
5x7
right?
picture, actually, black and white preferably,
Right.
right?
And we'll find a place to display them, right?
Do you have a message for the younger generation?
Well, I think personally, from my experiences with my veterans and my dad in particular and my father-in-law, like I think that we look at what the sign says, lest we forget. We should never forget, you know. And we're in a world today where conflict seems to be, you know, becoming much more the order of the day, as opposed to, you know, kind of thinking that if you listen to the songs, you know, where have all the flowers gone? For argument's sake, it seems like we've kind of taken it and we've gone like full circle. And I think that our children should never forget. They should never forget what these folks went through so that they could enjoy their freedoms that they have today. So they should take that, put it in stride, and whenever there's a memorial or an event for veterans and stuff like that, they should make sure that they're there, you know.
Is there a book or a document that you would like to recommend for those who want to learn?
They do have a magazine, Least We Forget, that is sent out to the veterans.
There's a Legion.
Legion one. But in the meantime, what we did do is, this was a project that we had, and we did, like, not all the information, obviously, that you can get on the frames themselves, but we did any information that we could find. Actually, my son did those about 10 years ago, I guess. And any information that we could find on the veterans, extra information, we put it in the books. So that way, if anybody comes and they have a loved one, and we have information on them, they will find them in here. And certainly, again, if they have loved ones here and we don't have the information on, we'd certainly be more than happy to take the information and have it inserted in our books as well.
Do you have a Facebook page or a website?
There is a St. Gabriel's Hall Facebook page and website. Actually, we're working on a new website now, so hopefully we'll have that up and running within the next 6 to 8 months, but it takes a little time to do that, right? But yes, and again, it's only contact us. We've had people that came during the summer. They were home visiting, and they would someone would give us a call, and we'd certainly bring them in, and they'd have a look around. We've had lots of weddings here that people have come from away, and they come down here and they're just in awe struck about all the information, and and they find somebody. Sometimes they find somebody who they're related to, and probably didn't even know they were here, right?
For Remembrance Day, do you have events?
This year, of course, for our Remembrance Day, because we are such in close proximity to Marystown and Bjorn, of course, our Legion branch is branch 29, and it's the Legion branch for Marystown and Bjorn area as well. So yearly, what we do is we rotate between the cenotaph in Bjorn and the cenotaph in Marystown to have the various activities for either Canada Day or Remembrance Day. So this year, as an example, we alternate. So this year at the cenotaph at the municipal building, our parade takes place there this year. So, and what we will do this year, what we've done pretty much every year that we do this, we will have a lunch for anybody who wants to come, including all the folks who attend the parades or don't get an opportunity to attend a parade, but just to come and listen to actually what we're going to do this year. We're going to have some ladies who are going to do some readings and some letters that were sent home to veterans during the war. We're also going to provide a soup and sandwich lunch, and we're going to provide some entertainment. And this year, by the way, and Nora and I, and about 20 other senior folks, we have a seniors choir called Voices of Mortier Bay, which is just a volunteer choir this year. So what we're doing now is we're preparing the choir for some numbers for the event on Remembrance Day. So that's kind of a neat little niche that we're kind of promoting this year as well. But it's an idea to kind of get not only young people involved in it, but we get our seniors involved in this as well.
I noticed that the Heritage Museum also has a few artifacts.
They do. Actually, my father's uniform is in the Heritage Museum over there, right? And they have other things over there as well. Now, I haven't been over there lately. In the meantime, I'm not sure if they've added any things to it. But yeah, and we work sort of hand in hand. Like, I mean, we send people over there as well. And when people come in, they, Cal might pick up the phone and say, somebody wants to see your veterans room, and certainly we accommodate them whenever we can.
When we originally started this, believe it or not, when we started, we had about 10, 11, 12 of our old veterans who were still alive when we started this thing back about 2009, 2010, somewhere there. And the purpose of this was not to, again, we have a very good relationship with the Royal Canadian Legion, by the way. This was not meant to be anything that interfered in any way, shape, or form with the Royal Canadian Legion. We just felt that we needed kind of a room, a place. So what we did, actually, we created this for those veterans as a place to go sit down and have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, have a drink, and carry on and just tell some stories about how they were way back when and stuff like that.
A lot of reminiscing.
It gave them an opportunity, and it gave them a kind of a place of solitude, if you will, to sit down and converse about old times and stuff like that. So that was a part of the original intent that we did this, and we thought this was a great idea because this came from ourselves, and it came from Mr. Cyril Butler in terms of, what a nice idea to do this and put on display, like, pictures of our loved ones and stuff like that. And it grew exponentially very fast when we got going. And then we had, matter of fact, people got that would come in and they would look all of a sudden and they'd become a little bit insulted because, one of their grandfather or their uncle or their dad or whatever the case may be wasn't here. So we just said, well, this was kind of a volunteer thing, and it was, you kind of let us know what you have, and we'll certainly put it on display for you. So we did, and this was the result of that. So again, now of course we don't have any. We have absolutely no World War II veterans. Now they're all passed on, of course. So, but we do have, and we would say to our friends now who are in the military right now and have served, if they want to get themselves or somebody belonging to them wants to get them in here to us, we would love to have them. We would love to have them so that we can put them up and we can put them in their place of honor.
Yeah, and they certainly use this room too. They come in here on a weekly basis and they'd have a chat and, as John would say, more of a drink than probably a cup of coffee. But anyway, they certainly enjoyed it. And, I think there was 6 of them originally when it started, because of Dad, and it was Ivan Legge, Mr. Millay,
Reg LeGros,
Mr. Cheeseman, right. And there was one other, Mr. George Brusher.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so they were so, I guess, honored, I would say, for us to be able to do something like this for them, because again, the respect that these gentlemen were shown during their lifetime was amazing. Right.
There's one other person here that's just very phenomenal, and I have to find him for you. And this young man up here, this is Lanier Phillips.
Oh yes.
Okay, now. This Lanier was on one of the American warships that ran aground in St. Lawrence during the Second World War. And he eventually he got the Doctorate of Law honors from Memorial University, an honorary law degree. And Lanier was, so just to show you, what we try to do in terms of displaying the veterans that we have and the people who fought in the Great Wars and stuff like that. But Lanier Phillips was probably like a piper of soldiers in St. Lawrence during or after the Second World War, because he visited many times. There are books written about Lanier Phillips. Again, like I said, you can go to Memorial University and discover that he was given the honorary law degree, and he became like almost like a mini Martin Luther King, if you will, after this war. And he was kind of amazed when some of the folks that had interviewed him after he'd come back to Newfoundland following the Great Wars and stuff like that, about how he taught about Newfoundlanders and how he probably only survived because it was the Newfoundland ladies who and men, of course, who happened to find him and rescued him after the 3 ships in St. Lawrence ran aground during the Second World War. There's a book called Standing into Danger that tells you about the loss of these 3 ships down there, the Wilkes, the Pollux, and the Truxton, and about some of the things that went on after the fact. But there's a whole host of information on a gentleman like this. There's another young man, Charlie.
Oh, Whiffen.
Charlie Whiffen. Charlie was a young gentleman from the Burin Peninsula. This young gentleman is originally from Rishon, which is only like 35 kilometers from here. And he went away to Virginia, I believe it is. I stand to be corrected, but I think he went to Virginia with his sister after the war, and he was in the U.S. military. He did 6 tours, I think he told me, in Vietnam, right? And he eventually came back home to live after all these years, So that's the kind of folks that we've produced, really, when you think about it. So there's phenomenal people that came out of here, right? So I would just like to say to the young folks, okay, from an old man to my young brothers, and not brothers and sisters anymore, but my nephews and nieces, and all the folks who can say that, you know, we live in a world, we live in a country, we live in a province, and we live in an area whereby, you know, we have basically everything we would ever want, and we have it simply because these people have done it for us.